Photography as fine arts. Well, putting those two words together seems to be very risky because artists would say that no, photo taking and photography is so easy, it's just pointing a device to a scene and taking a shot. That shouldn't be considered fine arts. I beg to differ. Because if you look at the progress of art and artists and the styles and the era of art itself, let's start with the most famous era of fine arts, the Renaissance era. If you look at the great artists during this era, Da Vinci, Donatello, Michelangelo, Masaccio, all these are not just artists, but great inventors, poets, you name it. That's why they are called Renaissance man. They know everything. So if you really look at this era, the paintings are truly realistic and conceptualized and painted, and they took months and years to draw and paint. And that was a lot of effort. Well, let's fast forward a little bit past that era and move on to the Impressionism era. Artists like Claude Monet, Cezanne, Manet, all these artists find that painting gods or demigods or human interacting with gods in the heaven of the Renaissance is so boring and not realistic. So artists during this era painted people at work, landscape, and God forbid, still life. Why did I say God forbid still life? Well, if you're a painter and you're invited and selected to be exhibiting in a salon, if you really look at it, if you're painting God, noblemen, famous people, your painting will be at the top. But if you're painting still life, you're right down here at the bottom. That means society and judges and people of the salon felt that this is not worthy of art. Well, that explains why a lot of painters and artists feel that photography is nowhere near art. But that's what we are here to prove. And also, I believe, coming from a very strong background in art, my mom and dad sent me to a lot of art school at a very tender age of 7 and 8 years old. I started drawing. In fact, I burned myself out just painting, watercolor, using oil painting, acrylic, you name it, I've tried it. And the thing is this, you got to be very, very strong in inspiration, conceptualization of the light, the tones, the colors. It's just art. But I find that grabbing a camera and taking a shot kind of like cut away a lot of the unnecessary thought process, but it's still very artistic because it's the inspiration of what you want to capture. And that's it. If you go to art school, you realize that the first thing that you are asked to do would be drawing shapes. And then you'll be doing shadings with tones just to make sure that you understand the form of light, tones, and shadow. And then once you start drawing, you'll be asked to copy great masters' arts. And more often than not, you'll be copying still life. So I believe that for us to be good in photography, we need to have a very strong foundation of art. In fact, if you look at the era of art itself, from Renaissance to Impressionism to Expressionism, they have progressed from drawing gods, demigods, noble people, right down to drawing still life. And at one time, still life was not even considered worthy of art. And here we are now, debating whether photography is art. I say it's art, if we start correctly. And that's it. Yi Chong and I felt that the best way to get you started in photography as fine art is to get a famous still life painting like this one. And then see if we can even shoot it as close as, well, it's just like going back to art school. The art teacher said, this is a famous still life, I want you to paint like it. So we're starting this very tutorial and see how well we are replicating this beautiful still life. Oh, if you ever doubted that you have so much to learn from taking photography to fine arts, here is a learning tip that I get from my food stylist. This is a clockwise peel. Notice that it ends at 9 o'clock. This one is an anti-clockwise and it ends at 3 o'clock. And Raphael's end at 9, so we have to do a clockwise peel. Wow, bet you didn't know that. The closest book that I have in my hands is this one, and it's nowhere red in color, so I have to make one. Wow, the effort. And then the tabletop that I need to use. So I was thinking use an Apple box, but it's just not wide enough. So I have to go dig in the prop store, and this is what I found. Pretty close. Face the camera a bit more from here. Okay, stop, too much. So this is what we're going to be shooting. Now looking at this particular painting, I realized that the light is strong. And we try to shoot this in camera as much as we can. And that itself is the art. It's similar like how artists mix their paint and the choices of brushes or palette knife to use. So if you look at photography, it is not as easy as you think. You cannot just grab a camera, set it to auto and take a shot. There's still a lot of process and setting up the camera that you need to do, and that itself is similar to your choices of choosing the canvas, the kind of placard that you use, the kind of brushes and the kind of media that you're going to use. So don't for once, if you're an art student, think that having a camera in front of us makes things easier. To know that if you look at this shot, it's a little bit more orangey, warmer than it's supposed to be. So we're going to be using a higher Kelvin. How high? I suspect it could be above 8,000 or maybe even 9,000. Looking at this shot, I presume that it's not low F number. Why? It's a still life. If you use a low F number like F4 or 5.6, you're going to be in trouble because it's going to be a bit too blurry. And speaking of blurry, if you look at this painting, it's not exactly that sharp because it's drawn, it's not high definition. So which means that we have to go inside the camera's JPEG setting and lower down the sharpness level. And at the same time, we're going to be using a hard light, a bright hard light. So I presume we'll be starting off with an F value of F11 or F16. We're pretty close, but looking at this, we are really short of a highlight here. We need to make this book and also the orange a little bit brighter. So let's add a highlight. Wow, we are pretty close. I'm quite impressed with what we pull off. Well, there's a remarkable difference that I can see here is that our photo is a little bit flatter compared to the painting. The fruit is a little bit smaller and the book is a little bit thinner. But you know what, Ella? Because photography has post-processing, let's throw that into the mix and let's make that a little bit taller. Let's transform it a little bit better. Almost perfect. My arts teacher will be happy with me now, I'm sure. Oh, an interesting point for you to know. If you look at Raphael's painting, there is a seed in his orange or grapefruit. Ours, none. Well, over all these decades and years of progress in agricultural fruit technology, we don't have seed in our grapefruit and orange anymore. So we had to peel through a few of these fruits to find a miserable looking seed and plant that in, just to make it as faithful and realistically close to Raphael's painting. Wow, how far have we progressed in fruit growing? So viewers and subscribers, verdict time. So you think that photography is fine arts? Well, I would say that photography can be beyond fine arts. Well, the reason I say this is, as an artist, I could easily take out my palette knife and my oil paint and start painting light and perceive it as the law of physics of what I like. But not with photography. Light doesn't behave that way, it doesn't behave that way, and the modifier doesn't give you that effect. You need to change modifier and hack a new one. So that's why I'm saying that photography is so much more challenging, because it would be so easy for you to ask me to draw a strawberry rolling down a hill on a snowy day. And I can draw that. But if you were to take a photo of that phenomenon, you need a great prop department and art department to create you that strawberry, not forgetting that you need to know a lot of photoshopping. And where's the sun coming in what direction from the mountain? That's crazy. So I would say that my verdict of this, photography can go beyond fine arts. It's how inspired you are. And that was part 1. If you enjoyed this, head on to Premium Courses, sign up, support me, and enjoy part 2. How we turn this beautiful avocado still life into a faithful photo rendition. And it's not as easy as you think. In fact, this one, do you agree this is tougher than the orange peel? The orange peel was tougher for the art department and the food people, Michelle. But this is truly a study of fast shadow and slow shadow here. Oh, one important point. Check out the price of the premium courses. It's just $29 US for the whole year. Head on to my website and show your support for my e-learning courses.